Hello and welcome to the Seer 365 sessions. Every week we have a conversation with a partner of in the Dynamics world, be they systems integrators or ISV. And this one, the last of this Seer 365 sessions for the year, I'm really excited to be able to welcome Larry along. Hi, Larry.
How you doing, Richard?
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that.
I put my jumper on for you today, so hopefully it's in the Christmas mood.
Yeah, it's making me feel bad now. The only one I've got has got Everton written on it, so I don't feel worse about my rubbish football team.
That's all right.
So thank you very much for coming. So let's start off as we always do. So would you like to introduce yourself and TrueCommerce?
Yeah, so I'm Larry, basically responsible for partners across Europe. I work as part of a team, as part of a global partner program, and TrueCommerce provides global EDI managed services for companies. And we specialize in integrations into Microsoft Dynamics as well as other ERPs.
Cool. Well, just to start with, just a sort of level set, why don't you kind of explain to me a little bit about what EDI is and where it's come from, and you know what does modern EDI look like?
Yeah, so EDI has a really long history. It was just about having two different parties across different geographies communicating with each other and exchanging information related to trading. People used to trade in the past through face to face, and we all know the experience of people trading in stock markets, where people would get around screaming at each other their orders and stuff like that. Well, the market became there was a big need to try to automate as many of these transactions as possible. So a number of standards bodies got together and decided to define what an order, invoice, and other transaction types defined in a document that could be exchanged between parties, so that each party gets a version of the document specifically with the data that they're looking for. And that's easy for them to integrate into their systems and be able to export data back out to the other party in order to confirm the following step in the transactions. So it supports generally order to cash transactions, procure to pay transactions, and we've also seen a lot of vendor managed inventory transactions and warehouse transactions as well. So there's a whole library of standards used to be able to simplify how data gets interchanged between two separate systems across geographies. Okay,
cool. And then, and what about modern EDI? So obviously, it goes without saying, we're kind of pretty much a digital economy now. So, all companies have got their own systems and being able to talk to each other. So how has that changed? What does a modern EDI look like, and why is that important to customers?
Well, it's important from the perspective of what companies are doing these days in their digital transformation journeys.
Right.
When they're doing these journeys, they're looking at new applications, new ERPs, and many of them are looking at cloud platforms.
Yeah.
It's a large industry right now. I was reading some research that says it's a $104 billion industry, and wow. Cloud is like one of the biggest adoption trends towards that. And the holy grail, of course, is to have everybody in the company, depending upon doesn't matter which department that they're in, using the corporate application, right? Everybody wants to use the same application, so there's one single version of the truth. And so if that's the case, then EDI should be part of that experience as well, so that your new user interface of D365 or NetSuite or whatever other ERP system you're implementing, that becomes the future EDI interface. So as you normally do your day-to-day transactions of handling your day-to-day trading transactions, you want EDI basically to happen in the background without your users really getting involved with the things they did in the past.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I've worked with TrueCommerce a long time. They're kind of our go-to EDI in my previous life. And I think what's interesting for me is, you can set up a kind of, one-to-one. So I supply a large supermarket with stuff, right? Christmas crackers. I'm not sure if Christmas crackers will translate for all viewers, but it's a thing in the UK.
No, so you box before I came back home.
You did? Okay, yeah. My mum always went mental on Christmas crackers, but anyway, that's separate thing. So and if I'm supplying one supermarket, they want it in a certain way. A different supermarket will want that information formatted in a different way. And I think the one thing that I really liked about TrueCommerce was the ability to make that really simple for the customer. So when you're bringing on a new supplier, a new customer to work with you, you're not having to bring third-party consultants in to do a bunch of work. So being able to have that done by the customer, it was one of the things I always liked about TrueCommerce.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the kind of you've already talked about the massive size of the industry, but if somebody's listening to this either as a customer or as a partner that maybe has never got involved with EDI, what are kind of the main things that you look for when talking to that end customer? What they should be looking out for if they want to do an EDI project?
Yeah. So there's, back in the past, there was a standard and companies established connections with each other and they exchanged data with each other. And you had departments supporting the trading activities between the two companies, right? So over the years, it's advanced towards, providing a cloud that you can have a one-to-many connection, which is pretty standard these days. And it gives you a greater economy of scale to be able to have one point into a cloud and then being able to distribute your communications up to many, many trading partners. But the big benefits to companies is when they look to get a service that includes all aspects of EDI. If you look at all the different components in EDI, there's quite a lot of moving parts. You've got the connection to your partners, you've got the networking thereof, you got to secure it. You got to apply computing power. You got to make sure that there's memory, and you got to make that all dynamic. And then you have to have the integration into the ERP and making sure you're reading and writing from the appropriate tables in the ERP and getting the data validated before it goes into the ERP. And so all those pieces, it could be done, but what we've done over the years is basically make that a science. So we basically made it a service that we've made it. We drive towards excellence so that we can provide customers the entire service end to end. We offload the work of being able to onboard new trading partners, and we do that at a very reasonable price point and at a predictable price point for them as well.
And from a price point, I think I'm right in saying it's kind of transactional, number of transactions type.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's transactional, and but we can do some modeling and predicting to make it fixed, so that it's a really predictable fee on a month-to-month basis so that there's no surprises. Historically, people used to have these crazy surprises hitting them, but that's now kind of like old days.
Yeah. Talking about the old days, so let's talk about the future then. Well, what do you kind of see in the EDI world? What do you think is going to be coming down the pipe?
Yeah, so what we're saying now is that, I was just doing some research prior to this call. They was looking at the EDI market itself, and it looks like today it's about a $1.8 billion market right now from service providers and software providers as well. But it doesn't include all the DIY solutions that are out there. Remember, there's some really large companies that build their own systems to basically manage EDI, because it's the most important way of trading with partners, the most important way of getting orders from their customers, regardless of whatever distribution channel that they have available to them. So it is really important for them. So they actually, at really high volumes, they put their own departments in place. One of the trends that we do see is that those departments are aging. And as we know, the whole IT sector is aging these days as well. There's a big conversation amongst the Microsoft community about how do we get younger people involved with IT, and what sort of role models do we have out there. And certainly, I'm not a role model with a jumper like this. Nobody wants to be like me at all.
I think you're pulling it off. You're a good-looking man, and you're pulling it off with a bit of swag. It's good.
So what we're seeing in terms of a trend is people replacing their IT departments with a service provider like TrueCommerce. So we've done that a couple of times where we become the EDI department for that particular company. We've done that for a couple of major retailers in the UK, a couple fashion retailers in Germany, and a number of retailers in the United States. So that's one big trend that we see. The other big trend is the integration into the ERP. Before, it was all about file exchanges, and I drop a file someplace, you pick it up, and you have to import the data, create the transaction, validate the data, and then vice versa, you had to do the same thing before. But the big trend now is basically having your EDI service provider also do those transactions for you. So in other words, a sales order or purchase order come in for your customer, gets created right inside the ERP with no errors.
Right.
And then vice versa, all the corresponding messages such as invoicing, ship notification, they get created with no errors back to the customer. And so in that way, basically, we are preventing faulty data from being created into the corresponding ERPs so that we can trade more efficiently. And when there are errors, this is my third trend, I would say, is that we want to enable the business user to solve their own problems. Right. What do I mean by that? So historically, when people cobbled together their own EDI solutions, they had to put a lot of time and effort with IT. And so IT was always in the middle of trying to solve, basically building the solution, decrypting things. And so whenever there were error messages, the service, the frontline workers, either the procurement team or the sales team, always had to get IT involved to solve the problem. And in our experience, what we've seen that is like 80 to 90% of the problems had to do with invalid master data. And master data is really a business issue. So why involve IT? So the trend here is that if you can pre-validate data, send an alert when the data is incorrect to a business user, and if 90% of the problem is master data related, then the business user could solve that master data issue and then reprocess that message. And that's a significant improvement towards the way we used to do things in the past, and we keep the burden off of IT and the entire process.
And much higher customer satisfaction.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, absolutely. I think that sounds really good.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, that's cool. So from a 2023, I know speaking to you, you've got a number of webinars coming up as well. So I just wanted to flag everybody. Can they find them on your website?
Yep, we've got the website schedule on there that you can see, a webinar schedule where we have a number of activities. We participate in a number of events as well. One of the events that one of the webinars we're going to be doing shortly was talking about I think migrating to the cloud. Right, Microsoft is talking about a bridge to the clouds. We know that SAP is also pushing people to the cloud in a variety of ways. But if we focus on the Microsoft approach, we have bridge to cloud transitions where people are moving from older versions of Nav to AX over to D365 supply chain management or to Business Central. And those migrations are complicated by themselves, right? And there's always, and I would say maybe 70% of the time, and that's just a complete estimate on my part. There's always an EDI workload there. And that EDI workload is, the company has to decide, what do I do with it? Do I rebuild it like I did in the past? Can I rebuild it inside of the new constricted data models that BC and F&O have, or Finance and Operations have? Or do I offload that to somebody else, right? And so what we propose is, obviously, if we can help with all the connectivity and all that across the board in terms of the classic EDI solution, but allow a trusted party that might be able to do the integration into those ERPs, but also handle all of that workload for EDI that was previously built in the ERP. And what I'm talking about is import and export routines, talking about data validation, cross-reference tables, creating transactions, extracting data. So all those things that we previously did inside of the ERP can now be done outside of the ERP. So that just makes updates a hell of a lot easier. And you have a party that can help you stay up to date all the time with a certified approach.
Well, look, and we're working directly with Microsoft on campaigns to help, especially the Nav. The old Nav install base move to the cloud, and you guys are coming up in just about every engagement we have. So there's a big opportunity out there for any partner that's listening to this. I would highly recommend you reach out to Larry and to TrueCommerce. I've got his contact details here as well, so just ping him on LinkedIn. But I can say that we've been working with TrueCommerce a long time, and definitely our go-to EDI partner. So just want to thank you for all your partnership over the years as well.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. It's great to be here, and hopefully we'll hear from some of the listeners today.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And just to end off, just want to thank Larry again, and to thank everybody for listening in. I hope everybody has a great end of 2022 and a happy and healthy and prosperous 2023. Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your week. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, all.